Hey everyone, Aaron Pletz here from DataStax. I am here to take you through some fairly in-depth content on running Enterprise Cassandra on Amazon EKS. So yeah, we're going to have some fun with this today, and hopefully the demos all work. That would be brilliant. All right, let's see here. Try to remember how to share my screen. Found it. All right. So let's go entire screen. And there we go. Okay. Like I said, here we go. Running Enterprise Cassandra on Amazon EKS. For this session, our goals are actually pretty simple. I'm going to quickly go through some introductory concepts, about, Amazon EKS, Kubernetes, clusters, containers, pods, et cetera, et cetera. We are going to use a pre-prepared EKS cluster. I would go ahead and have you watch me put one together, but A, it takes a while, and B, there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of places for things to go wrong. So it's really just better if I kind of get it to a good state and then kind of show you things about it, and then we'll pick up from there. Anyway, once we get done talking about EKS, we'll go ahead and install DataStax Mission Control. That's our GUI user interface that lets you use Kubernetes-based infrastructure. And then with all that in place, we'll actually build out an enterprise Cassandra cluster on top of all this, just so you all can see just how easy it is to do. So, all right, with that, I think we can move on here. All right, so real quick, a little about me. I work at DataStax. I've been in DevRel for quite a while. I've been a part of the Apache Cassandra community for, again, a while, more than 12 years. So I've been using it for quite a long time. I was previously the engineering lead for NoSQL at Target. My specialty was Cassandra, but I did kind of oversee and drive all of NoSQL. And we did a lot of distributed databases on Kubernetes at Target. So that was that was something that's kind of prepared me for this this presentation. And I've written some books too. 7 NoSQL databases in a week, mastering Apache Cassandra 3.x, and then in January I came out with Code with Java 21. So yeah, let's see here. So hey, real quick, our agenda for today, pretty simple. Try to match up with our goals. We're going to get into Amazon EKS at a high level. We're going to talk a little bit about the architecture and what happens when you're using or when you're deploying Cassandra on Kubernetes with Mission Control. We're going to look at preparing your EKS cluster or a pre-prepared EKS cluster. We'll install Mission Control, and assuming everything goes well, we'll build out a new Cassandra cluster on top of that at the end. All right, so diving right into it, Amazon EKS. Basically, it's pretty simple. It's Amazon's elastic Kubernetes service. The great thing about EKS is it lets you integrate easily with other AWS services as well, like IAM, EC2, Fargate. I've actually done quite a bit of integrating it with ECS as well, the Elastic Container Services. So, you can have your Cassandra databases deployed on EKS and then also run your individual applications on ECS if you want to. Yeah. And of course, the biggest advantage of Amazon EKS is that it's Kubernetes on easy mode. It really the main thing is it allows teams to run Kubernetes that without having to run Kubernetes essentially, or maintain it or operate it, or do any of those tedious tasks along with it. So yeah, Amazon EKS makes a great choice for using, a Kubernetes as a service and, helping you to get your Kubernetes apps into production faster. All right, quick dive into the architecture here. So our goal today, we're going to start out with Amazon EKS. We're going to deploy DataStax Mission Control on top of that, and that's going to allow us to use a special Kubernetes operator that we have. I think it's called the it's the Cassandra operator. We actually have a version of Cassandra that we've built specifically for Kubernetes, and that's called Cassandra. So we've kind of repurposed that operator to help out with mission control as well, and really that just it abstracts away a lot of the nitty gritty details of using Kubernetes to go ahead and build your Cassandra deployments. And then once we have all that in place, I'm going to go ahead and deploy DataStax Enterprise on top of it. You'll be able to see that with mission control, we can really take our pick if we want to deploy DSE or Apache Cassandra or HCD. But I'm actually going to go with DSE because of reasons. Well, anyway. So when we go ahead and we have a cluster that's managed that's deployed on top of Kubernetes with mission control, what does it look like? Well, simply put, this slide right here kind of shows the pods that are running. So when you run workloads on Kubernetes, a pod gets created and a pod runs on a node, and inside a pod you can have multiple containers running. So specifically, you get when you deploy Cassandra, you get each Cassandra node will have its own pod. You'll also get pods additionally for Cassandra Reaper, which helps with repairs. You'll also get one for excuse me, the CQL or CQL shell process, and you'll also get one too for the if you deploy DSE or HCD, you'll get the data API, the DataStax data API deployed along with it. So those are the pods that you get running. Now, if we move forward and we take a look at one of the individual like Cassandra Kubernetes pods, these are the containers that are running inside of it. So you'll see you have your database container running, which is one of either HCD for hyper-converged database or DataStax Enterprise, DSE, or Cassandra itself. Additionally, you're going to have containers running for the system logger, again, to kind of help pass along, logging and help aggregate a lot of the processes involved with that, as well as you'll have Cassandra Medusa there for backups. So this is actually kind of the cool thing is that, if you deploy with mission control, a lot of times you have all this extra work involved in setting up like Medusa, and it's setting up Reaper to make sure that you have backups and repairs like all running. But with mission control, you just get that all like installed and configured and everything all set up for you. So it's really pretty slick. All right. Well, let's move on to preparing your EKS cluster. Before getting into that, there are some things that you'll need to have installed that will really help out with making this process a lot easier. First of all, you'll want to have the AWS CLI. There's a lot of things that you get with EKS control that kind of abstract away the need for the AWS CLI, but there are some things like creating S3 buckets. I think we actually do want the AWS CLI for. Kind of leading into that, EKS control is again a tool that kind of aggregates away a lot of the details with like building and configuring an EKS cluster. The cool thing about that is that, if you were to do things purely through like the AWS console, there'd be all these different steps that you'd kind of have to do to get everything right. Well, EKS control will take care of a lot of those steps for you. So I highly recommend that. And then, of course, we're going to need kube control. Anyone who's worked with Kubernetes enough, I'm sure, is familiar with kube control. And then, of course, we have COTS. COTS you might not have heard of. It's a plugin actually, for kube control that kind of allows you to run applications as a part of an installer. So it stands for Kubernetes off the shelf, and we're actually going to use that to install Mission Control. So our cluster specifically that we're going to work with today, again, I have this one pre-prepared to kind of minimize the chances of something going wrong here. But our cluster is going to be named Aaron's EKS 6. You can tell how many times I've done this now. It's deployed in the U.S. West 1 region. It's made up of 5 nodes, and those 5 nodes are all running with on the Amazon type of T3X larges. T3X large, I'm pretty sure gets you, I think it's 16 gigs of RAM and 4 virtual CPUs. Obviously, if you're going to go with a full blown production deploy, you're going to want to go with something a little beefier. But for building up a quick demo cluster that I can deploy a couple of small Cassandra clusters on top of, T3X large is a good mix of resources and like price point, basically. So yeah, that's what we're going to work with today. It has 5 nodes. 2 of them have been designated as platform nodes, and then 3 have been designated as database nodes. And you'll see how that comes into play here too. If you want details on everything that I did actually to build up and kind of prepare that EKS cluster ahead of time, we actually have this video, Enterprise Cassandra on Amazon EKS, Part 1, Mission Control Installation. I've actually done a step-by-step video on this, and it's on our DataStax developers YouTube channel. But that has it's like a 17-step, and I made sure that it all got bookmarked too. But yeah, it takes you through each step involved in getting that EKS cluster configured. So I highly recommend, if you're interested in the details of that, in having a look at that video. All right. Well, with that said, let's go ahead and jump into things. So here I am in. Let's see. Let's expand that a bit. You can see here we are in my AWS console GUI here. I can go ahead into my EKS 6 cluster. You can see it's definitely built up here. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, add-ons is something important to look at while you're building this out. And I actually do go through these steps in that video I just mentioned. You'll want to make sure that 2 important add-ons are in here. First of all, you want this EKS pod identity agent. That's going to be important. And the Amazon EBS CSI driver. That one is actually the one that allows your Kubernetes cluster the ability and permissions to provision disk resources. So it's kind of super important that you that you have that one configured properly. Almost all the problems I've run into while building these clusters up relate to how I've interacted with and configured that EBS CSI driver. So it's definitely something you want to pay special attention to. Real quick here, let's have a look at the command line. Let's see here. And I'm going to jump back here and just adjust my window a little bit so I can see the edges of these two if I have to jump back and forth. All right, let's clear up there. Okay, so the first thing we can do to have a look at the available resources, we can do a kube control, and I'll just say get nodes, just like that. And as you can see, I mentioned that this cluster is built up of 5 nodes. They're all in US West 1. And if I wanted to see nodes for a specific role, I could always do something like kube control get nodes, and I can say I can check by label and say mission dash control datastax.com role equals platform. All right, so these are the platform nodes. These are the ones that are going to have a lot of the processes around, like, node coordination, workload scheduling, things like that. Mission control is going to use the platform nodes, of course. Likewise, I can backspace over this and I can say database. And those are 3 database nodes. These are the ones that our Cassandra nodes are going to be deployed to. You'll also see, pods out on these nodes for some of those other processes that we talked about earlier. Like, you'll see pods out here for like Medusa. You'll see pods out here for Reaper, the data API, SQL Shell. These will all be kind of running on the database nodes for you to see there. One thing too that you'll kind of need in order to go ahead and build up your EKS cluster is to make sure that you have your storage classes configured. So if I say kube control get storage class, you can see down here that I have GP2 as the default. Then I also have a storage type called GP3. That was actually created. So if I do I actually have this as a YAML file on my local here. So if I do a cat and just GP3, you can see, storage class YAML. And you can see that basically this configures it, again, using that EBS CSI add-on as the provisioner there. But it builds out like a Linux ext4 file system underneath. So yeah, let's see. So we've got that. I mentioned the add-ons. We can also have a look at the add-ons here. That's going to be a EKS control, and we can say get add-on. And I'm going to specify my cluster of errands, EKS 6, and that's in region US West 1. This should do it. Yeah, here we go. So you can see the add-ons that I have here, the VPC, CNI, kube control proxy. We have the identity agent the pod identity agent that I talked about before, core DNS. And of course, that AWS EBS CSI driver that, like I said, it's really important that you get that one right. That about does it for having a look at our EKS cluster before we get going. I see that Alexander has a question out there. Is it possible to deploy Apache Pulsar? Oh, absolutely. Kind of the cool thing is that you can actually grab the image out there for Pulsar, and I mean you can run it inside of EKS. As far as it being integrated with Mission Control, not yet, but we're getting there. It's on the roadmap. If you've looked at our kind of our future product stance around going with like the HCD database, or which is the hyper-converged database, but long term it's also a part of the hyper-converged database platform that we will be getting to in the future, and Pulsar is going to be a part of that platform. I to be honest, I'm not sure if it's Pulsar or Astra Streaming, but if Mission Control has kind of showed us anything, it's that you might have the option to do both. And you'll see this in Mission Control. It's really easy for me to pick between whether I want to go with Apache Cassandra or DSE or HCD, and I have a long list of version images that I can pick from. If I had to guess, and I don't know for sure, I would say that something similar will be possible with Pulsar. All right, now that's a good question. I know there are a lot of folks out there who integrate Pulsar and things like Kafka with Cassandra all the time. So yeah, that's a really good question. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do here is my cluster needs the certificate manager. Kind of the cool thing again that we do with Mission Control is that we take care of SSL certificates for you. So if you turn on internode SSL, those certs are all created and managed entirely under the hood, so you don't have to mess with it. So I'm going to make sure we have that. And actually, I should have this in my prerequisites list also, but we're going to use Helm for that. So if I say Helm, if I can type, and we say install, and I want cert manager, and that's going to be at JetStack cert manager. I'm going to want to force it to create the namespace. We're going to want to use version, I think it's v1.13.2, and we're going to do a set install CRDs equal to true. Let's try that. Well, it's not failing, so that's a plus. Oh, here we go. Okay, so we have Cert Manager. All right, that's been deployed successfully. Whew, outstanding. Okay, with Cert Manager in place, we can go ahead and start the Mission Control install. So again, I mentioned before that we're going to install Mission Control by using COTS, which is the Kubernetes off-the-shelf, lets you build installers for like Kubernetes projects. And we have that COTS add-on installed. So I'm going to say kube control, I'm going to invoke COTS, and then you can say install mission-control. And important here, we want to make sure that we specify a namespace of COTS, because COTS does have some pods and things that kind of run in the background. And we don't want those pods in our default namespace. So let's go ahead and try that. All right. So I'll pass along a little tip here while you're doing this. If there's a problem, specifically again with that EBS CSI driver and the permissioning, and the permissions and on the IAM policy that need to be properly assigned to that add-on, this waiting for data store to be ready will actually spin and kind of hang there. And eventually, after a while, it'll say, "Hey, issues, provisioning, cannot continue." So if you go ahead and you build everything up, and then you run this command and you get to where it wants you to enter a password, that's really good. So many times I've tried this, I've gotten this far, and then it just spins at waiting for data store to be ready, and I'm just like, oh. Anyway, I digress. All right, so I'll go ahead and give it a password here. I'd better make it one I can remember. All right, it's going to bring up the admin console now. Shouldn't take too long for this to come up. But essentially what it's going to do is build up like a temporary port forward that'll allow us to go to our browser and then go into the COTS install process and complete the rest from there. All right, there we go. So now, as long as this process runs in the foreground, we can actually get to this on our local host on 8800 right here. And then, of course, once you hit Control-C to stop the process, well, then your port forward to localhost goes away. But let's jump out here for a second and paste that in. And this should take just a few seconds to come up here. Uh-oh. Something is not going well with our port forward here. Yeah. Oh, hey, there we go. That time it worked. All right. So now I want to put in that password that I just did inside the terminal. All right. Next, in order to install Mission Control, you need a license file. To get a license file, it's one of those things, that since Mission Control and HCD is really meant for our enterprise customers, you know, the best way to get a license file is to kind of talk to your DataStax rep. Whoever you work with for like sales or your solution architect, with DataStax, we can get you a license file. And we can also get you one for dev purposes as well. But for a license file, the best way to get one is to reach out to us, and we can help you out with that. So I'm going to choose my Mission Control license YAML here and say OK. And then I will say upload license. All right. Hey, we're in the Mission Control config right here. Outstanding. Okay, so I do want to set this up as a control plane. Let's see. Let's yeah, let's just leave that there. For observability, we are going to want to mark S3. Because I did mention that part of getting that cluster ready was to prepare or to actually create our S3 buckets. Let's see. So for storage, our S3 buckets are in US West 1. I need to put in my access key. Okay, I have to find my access key. Oh, my apologies, folks. I should have had this ready. Oh, there it is. All right, let me put that in. And then my secret key, and put that in. All right, endpoint URL. Yeah, let's see here. So since the default points to US East 1, we are going to want to adjust this. So we're going to say s3.us west 1 instead, and then we'll say Amazon AWS.com. Yeah, that's okay. All right, here's where we want to paste in our buckets. Let's see. I wonder if I have an easy way to show this. Yeah. All right, let me go to local. Now let's say cat S3. Okay. I should have shown this before, but this is the S3 access policy that I worked with before. I've gone ahead and created my buckets ahead of time, but your bucket names, for us anyway, are going to be right here. It's the Aaron's EKS 6 metrics and then DS Aaron's EKS 6 logs. So that should be really easy there. So we use Mimir actually for metrics. So let me just paste that in there. Let's see. Yeah, that's all okay. Observability logs. This is where I can go ahead and just backspace over metrics and say logs. Let me just verify that in my steps here. Yep, that's right. That's right. And the rest of this, we shouldn't need to worry about too much. Although this is where you'll want to, put in an email, so I can say Aaron at datastax.com. You'll want to put in a bcrypt hash password here. And, kind of the way we have that is we have this command, right here in the description that you can just copy. And you can put that in. And, instead of your password, I can say my password with a capital P like that, right? And that'll go ahead and get me that hash, which I can put in here, just like that. And then username, we can say Aaron. All right, and this should all be okay. So now, if I say continue, all right. Oh, it couldn't find the cert manager. Huh. Well, that's really strange. Well, it did pass enough of the pre-flight checks that it will let me go ahead and deploy. I wonder why the cert manager... I wonder why that file's not found. All right. I suppose if we rerun it, it'll just have the same thing again. But let's give it a shot, just in case. Just in case. Nah, yeah, we get the same thing. Okay, no problem. Let's just go ahead and try deploy here anyway. Yep, that's okay. We'll deploy. All right. So once we get through all of that, you'll be taken to this screen where you can see Mission Control is indeed deploying. It usually doesn't take terribly long to do. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay, so currently deployed. Outstanding. All right. Next, we can come back to here, and we can then Control-C out of that. Okay, now we have Mission Control running. So I should be able to say kube control get pods. All right. So yeah, we have some things for cert manager running there. How about for the namespace of mission-control? Hey, here we go. So mission control is actually running all of this right here. All right. Another command that I really should have had ready. You can see that we do have a pod running for mission control right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and say, you know what? I'm going to want to look at my history here. Let's go mission control UI. And it helps if I have a grep in there as well. Okay. Yep, here we go. We're going to do this kube control expose service mission control UI. We're going to do it as a type load balancer. We're going to name that with a, just putting an LB on the end. We're going to do that in the mission control namespace, and we're going to expose port 8080, just like that. All right. So now I can say something like, well, let's clear this here, and then we can say kube control get services. Oh, yep. And this is where I need namespace mission control. All right. Now here you can see that we do have, well, first of all, we have the mission control UI service, but then we actually have this mission control UI load balancer service. And the idea is that we've just created a load balancer and a way for us to actually get to the mission control UI here. So before trying to go here, let's make sure that this this DNS entry actually pings. Oh, hey, look at that. Okay, so of course, we block the ping port, but as long as you get this DNS entry resolving to an IP, you can tell it's running. So next, what I'm going to do is come out here, and we're going to say, I think it needs to be PS, and then I can paste that in, and let's see if that, oh, you know what? That's not going to work. It's got to be on 8080. There we go. Okay, and of course, we don't have an SSL cert on this for production. Yeah, you probably want to do that. But hey, I can hit proceed here, and bam. All right. So now if I remember how I set this up, I think I just said Aaron at datastax.com. All right. And I will say accept. All right. We are now in DataStax Mission Control. How about that? Okay. As we close up here, let's go ahead first thing, and we're going to create a new project. That's something you're always going to want to do. You know, I'm just going to say EKS 6 proj. That should work just fine. Okay. All right. And then let's say that I want to create a new cluster. So I can either click down here, or I can click up here in the corner. It really doesn't matter. But so for my cluster name, you know, I can say, well, let's see here. How about fly? Yeah, fly by night. Well, it looks like I've typed that one before, but that's okay. All right. This is where I can pick, you know, whichever database product I want to. So if I picked Apache Cassandra, you can see that version 501 is actually at the top here. But I can go all the way back down to you know, some of the versions of 3.11 if I want or need to. But I'm actually going to stick with DSE. And I want to stick with 6.9.2 because that's the DSE version that you know, has things like the data API and vector. You know, vector is pretty important, so I'm definitely going to want that. For our data center name, I'm going to say Anthem. Let's see here. For the rack name, I'll just say R10. Why not? I'm going to add a node affinity label here. And you can see it kind of matches out with the labels that we gave our node groups. And I kind of demonstrated that like earlier in this session. But if I click on that and then say affinity value of database, this right here will cause the nodes created in my cluster to only be deployed to the database nodes, and that's what we want. I do want to go with 3 nodes per rack. And you know, this is a small cluster. We can go with 4 gigs of RAM. That's fine. I showed you my storage types before of GP3 and GP2. I'll just go with GP3. We'll stick with something small like 20 gigs. And then I'll just go with a super user password. Just like that. On the off chance that there's something wrong with SERP Manager, I'm going to not use internode encryption just to kind of head that off there. And then let's see if we have 4 gig nodes. Let's just go with a 2 gig heap. That should be plenty. All of that is fine. Deploy the data API for sure. And we should be okay. All right. So as you can see, we get this message up here that says cluster created. I can actually go into my cluster here. You can see that right now we don't have any nodes available, or we don't have any Cassandra nodes available, but they should be on their way up. So, you know, one thing that I can look at here, I can say kube control get namespaces. There we go. I'm going to want to keep this EKS 6 project namespace, you know, kind of stored off here because we are going to need that for some things. So now if I say, you know, kube control, let's do a get pods, and then I can specify my namespace and then paste that in. Let's see what we have so far here. Well, it hasn't found anything just yet. It still might be spinning these up. Let's have a look here. So if we say resources and pods, all right, yeah. Oh, we actually have quite a bit here. Let's have a look. There we go. Let's refresh. There we go. Now we see our project namespace up here. Oh, ha! Look at that. Okay, we have pods for our 3 nodes. That means that I should be able to see them in the command line with kube control as well. And I do see them. Okay, okay. There's still, you know, 0 out of 2 um, containers running inside the pods. And you know, obviously, without those 2 running, their status isn't going to be ready just yet, but they're on the way. Um, Important to note, when we went back, or when we first started today, and I was talking about some of the architecture, excuse me, specifically with like the database node pods, and I said that there were 3 containers that ran inside. So you had the syslogger, you had the database process, and then you had Medusa. I actually did not configure backups for this cluster inside of Mission Control. So we'll only get 2 containers. We'll just have the syslogger and our database process, and that'll be it. So let's rerun this again. Oh, hey, look at that. We have node number 2 here is starting to come up. That's a good sign. Let me see if I go back to Mission Control. You know, maybe I can refresh this a little bit. Still not showing just yet. Okay. That's fine. Let's go here. Actually, let's refresh this a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Let's have a look at this pod here. Yep. You can see here my containers, the Cassandra or DSE database process, and the system logger. And yeah, so far so good. You know, things are looking normal. Not healthy yet. They're still waiting for a couple of things to come up here. But you can see that this pod does have an IP. And it is running on, you know, one of our database nodes as well. Actually, I could verify that by rerunning our kube control. Oops, I missed the K. Kube control get nodes with the label of Mission Control DataStax com database. And yeah, you can see here is 192, 168, 11, 112. And if I go back to here, you can see 192, 168, 11, 112. That's where that pod is running. So, hey, it's coming along. Here, let's do a refresh. Let's see here once. Let's have a look at the pods. Oh, hey, look at that. We have, it looks like node 0 is up. Let's go back to Mission Control here. Now, those nodes should start to show up. Yeah, we're probably not going to have a whole lot for metrics right now. Yeah. Sometimes it takes a little bit for those for the nodes that get created to actually show up inside of Mission Control. But from what I can tell here, yeah, we have 1 node up here for sure. You know, if I go back and here, let's have a look at our pods and jump over to our other namespace and have a look at node 0. Yep, you can see the status is running. Everything looks like it's up and normal here. Yep, system logger is running. Cassandra is running. Yeah, still don't show anything here. I wonder if I can get a CQL console running out there. Yeah, you know what? That might actually need 2 nodes now that I think about it. Yeah, that's not going to work until at least 2 nodes are up here. Let's see here. Yeah, things have just not updated here yet. hey, we have 2 nodes running. That's good. Yeah, normally there they are. I guess it just took a few minutes for them to show up. But yep, you can see our 3 nodes are indeed here, and we are waiting for node number 2 to come up still. That's still in a state of starting. And yep, you can see that one here. It has one of two containers that are running and reporting back okay. So we should be just about ready to go. Oh, there we go. Look at that. All 3 are running. In fact, if I look here, there we go. So not only, hey, this is a good thing to show. Not only do we have 2 out of 2 containers running on each node, but we also have pods out here for CQL Shell, for the Data API, and for Cassandra Reaper. So we have a cluster up and running. And in fact, I should be able to go into, oh, look at that. I get, okay, so if I remember right, this should be fly by night super user, one word. There you go. We're in our cluster. All right, have a look at that. Obviously, there's nothing out here just yet, but I can star from system local. I can have a look at system local and see the node that we actually connected to. Yep, that was at that 12.209. If I wanted to have a look at the other 2 nodes, we can take a look at system.peers, and yep, there they are. So yeah. Well, that's kind of, hang on a second. All right. Well, anyway, that's basically it. That's how easy it is to spin up a Cassandra cluster once you have mission control in place on top of Amazon EKS. So yeah, that should about do it. Here, let me jump back here. Resources. We have a Discord server that's, again, like our YouTube channel called DataStax Developers. It's really easy to get to. It's just discord.gg/DataStax. If you have any questions about, mission control, DSE, Cassandra, Astra, HCD, any of the things that we've been doing with GenAI, anything with Langflow, feel free to come to that Discord and ask questions if you got them. Also on here, I previously mentioned this as well, but we have our DataStax Developers YouTube channel, and that has a few new playlists that I've been putting together, on this type of material. I referenced one video already that kind of goes through how to build up like an Amazon EKS cluster. Get it prepared. A lot of the details that went behind that went into that, are also kind of behind the scenes in this session as well. But there's all sorts of other good material out there as well. A lot of our earlier development was done on GCP. So if you're running on GCP, you should check out some of those earlier mission control videos. We have a lot of good material out there on that. And yeah, and of course, check out datastax.com as well, where you can get more information on, a lot of the products mentioned in this session, like, DSE, HCD, mission control. And that's basically it. I suppose I could go through and take some questions, although it looks like there's just the one from Alexander. And then, we haven't had a whole lot of others come through yet. Let's see, is there, no, nothing in the Q&A. Well, I guess, we're within 10 minutes here, so I could go ahead and call this at time. But hey, thank you everyone who joined. And if you have questions on any of this, feel free, like I said, to reach out on our Discord server. Even if you find me on LinkedIn and you got to ask a question, you know what? People do that all the time. So, feel free to ask away. All right, that's all we have. Thank you all so much. Have a great day.